So today we'll be discussing the topic from agriculture to agric-business, the case for an African youth. I won't be doing this alone. I have a guest with me, but also the point to note is that this would also feature over 2 episodes. My guest today is a real life story. It's a real life story that was also captured in the book. This is the book, The Never an Afterthought. My guest that I bring in now is Benedict Gbayisemore Orioye.
I am Orioye Benedict Gbayisemore. My story is just a story of somebody from grass to grace. Because I started fishing with my father at a very tender age of 5. And that is the inborn skill, that is the culture. If you know about the Ilaje, what we are known with, the Ilajes, is we are into fishing.
Our viewers may wonder when I said the topic is about from agriculture to agric-business, what do we really mean? When agric remains as a culture, you are the subsistence level of farming, which basically you are farming for yourself, for your family, for your children to eat, and maybe whatever is left you just give as a trade by barter kind of thing. So you are not really farming for business. If agric-business is really going to be the oxygen, if we do agree that agric-business is the oxygen for African economies, then it cannot remain at the cultural level.
You know, when we harvest more than we can preserve, more than we can process, the next thing, once they are going bad, you don't have option than to discard them and dispose them.
So are you saying that you're also eating this even after you have eaten?
That is also when we have eaten. We have even eaten more than we can contain.
Wow.
We have preserved more than we can contain. The next thing is for waste. Beyond making agriculture sex, we have to make it executive. I enjoy people calling me a fisherman now than calling me a graduate, because that is my identity.
From your story now, you believe and strongly believe as well that education is what actually helped to, or is what separated you from your, siblings, let me call it that way, from your siblings.
Absolutely correct.
You chose to focus on crayfish, and I'm wondering why crayfish.
One of the reasons why people do run away from taking the crayfish is because of the challenge in processing the crayfish. So as an entrepreneur, that challenge is where I focus on. That makes me an Apple solution provider. I want to provide solution. I want to face the challenge so that people can enjoy it. I will use that to add value. And once I add value, definitely I'll make words.
Well, time is not, this is what time is going to allow us. Like I already said at the introduction, this is running over 2 episodes. So that's how much we can take today. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Never an Afterthought show. My name is Afolabi Imoukhuede. I'm the author of the book, The Never an Afterthought, and the anchor for this show, The Never an Afterthought. It's important to mention that because this show came out of the book. We didn't just start the show because we wanted to start the show, but I published a memoir of mine titled The Never an Afterthought, June 2020, and it's really after the book that we have this show. So it's always a privilege to have you join us and to welcome us to your homes. For those of my listeners who also listen to our podcast channels, thank you. I tend to want to focus most times on just our viewers, but I forget that we also have listeners. Indeed, a lot of listeners across all our various podcast channels. So thank you. Okay, so today we are continuing our episode titled From Agriculture or Agric-Culture to Agric-Business, or for short, you tend to say agriculture, which is what we know, and we also say agri-business. So yes, we're continuing that episode which we started last week, having on set Gbayisemore Benedict, who had featured in the book, the Never an Afterthought book, and we've watched several clips of his real life story. I featured him in the book because it's a real life story, and the production team have also gone to document his day-to-day real-life story as an African youth in the agri-business space. Now, Benedict's story, for those of you who did not watch last week or didn't have the privilege to join us last week, you want to catch up because that's actually what would enable today's show make sense. His story is such that the cultural part of Agric he was born into an agriculture of fishing. The Ilajes are known for fishing because they're surrounded by coastal waters. So he was born into the culture of fishing and indeed began fishing since the age of 5. But the fact that he had an innate skill of fishing did not save him from near poverty. That's the point I want us to understand. And that is so prevalent because his is fishing, right? Many others could be some type of farming, crop farming. Another could be a TVET skill. And so what I did last week was we started out our show with a 2018 clip, of an African Agri conference that held in Rwanda, in Kigali, Rwanda in 2018. So you really want to catch on to watch last week. But there are 4 things that I picked up from that clip, which I will repeat again today since we're continuing. One is to make Agric sexy in order to be able to attract the youths. And I also mentioned that in the book, I'd espoused the reason for us to make TVET, which is Technical Vocational Education and Training, of which agriculture is one of those TVET skills, right? To make TVET sexy. The second point is the fact that, like I mentioned about Benedict, innate skill in fishing, but it didn't save him from near poverty. Now, what do I mean? Reality of hunger, poverty, malnutrition, in the midst of abundant wastage and farmer penury abounds amongst us, not just in Nigeria, but in the African continent. And you heard the story last week as well about how a lot of wastage tends to happen. It is predominant. It is predominant, especially when we still practice Agric as a culture. It is so predominant. It was also something a few days ago, I was at the premiere of the documentary film titled Unmasked that was produced by Benedict Gbayisemore and my good friend Kedra Ahmed, which is basically a COVID-19 documentary. And one of the ladies that was interviewed who actually featured, they were among those that helped to feed a lot of indigent homes during the lockdown, that COVID-19 lockdown of 2020. And what did she say? They had a lot of challenge with getting vegetables because of the lack of cold chains. Is a reality. So these challenges pervade Africa. And that's the reason why we are still struggling in as much as we have a lot of raw materials. If you look at cocoa, for example, there's probably a debate between Ghana and Nigeria's cocoa, which is the best. But then what do? We plant the cocoa, we export the cocoa raw. Now that cocoa is processed in another clime and is brought back. We buy the chocolates expensive. So it's not just Agric. It's predominant in Agric, but it's really cuts across our stratosphere. Another one is Agric-Business is the oxygen for African economies. And the last point that I picked from that short clip is the fact that farming land, single-digit finance, enabling environment for processing, for storage, for value chain, for cold chain, and indeed for export still remain a huge challenge. So that's been it. And we worked, Benedict worked his life, or we worked Benedict's life with us on set and offset last week. And today we're going to be continuing in that regard. But just before we go on a short break, there's something Benedict mentioned last week. He alluded his ability to transition from agriculture to agribusiness to education. The education was that weapon, was that tool that enabled him to make that transition. Because we're going to be focusing a lot about his agric-business, the aspect of him as an agric-business entrepreneur today. I stumbled on a quote I've kept in one of my journals during the course of the week, and I thought to use this quote to open the show. And it's a quote from Chief Obafemi Awolowo. When I'm done reading the quote, I will shock you to tell you the year this quote was written. Last week, I celebrated my sister's birthday, right? The year this quote was written is synonymous to the year she was born. But let me shock you. It says, in other words, this is power, Chief Obafemi Awolowo now. In other words, it is within our power to transform this dear land of ours into a developed country within the next 25 years at the most. However, we must not be deceived. Unless we introduce free education at all levels now, the word now is in capital letters, this great objective would elude us. The majority of our people would, in spite of our oil boom, continue to wallow in abject peasantry and poverty, and at the turn of the century, we would probably still be numbered among the most poverty-stricken of the underdeveloped nations of the world. This was a quote that was taken from a full text of the address delivered, an excerpt of the address delivered by Chief Obafemi Awolowo at the launching ceremony of Mr. Gani Fawemi's new book, which was titled at that time, People's Rights to Free Education at All Levels, which took place at Ondo Town Hall on Saturday, 27 July 1974. This was a quote, an excerpt from an address that was delivered in 1974. That's 47 years ago. Now, what are the points here? One, the realities are still with us. The turn of the century is 21 years old. The 25 years target we had in 1974 was for 1999. And today, the things I'm going to be on set discussing with Benedict, the reality of the environment, the abject poverty, the penury, the peasantry, malnutrition, all of that, they are still with us today. I dare say, like the late sage said, we perhaps need to return back again to education, education, education at all levels. Let's take a short break, and right after the break, I'll bring Benedict back on set with me. Thank you. Welcome back to our episode as we continue from agriculture to agribusiness, the case of an African youth. So yes, it's our show. You know what to do. Our hashtag, the Never an Afterthought, and that's how we join and continue these conversations across all our social media channels. Twitter, which is at NAA_book, Facebook and Instagram at NA Afterthought. Email is podcast@neveranafterthought.com. And yes, you do know that we glean your comments on the platform wherein you're listening or watching me. Okay, so Benedict, firstly, before the break, I read this excerpt by Paolo, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, and incidentally, I don't know what triggered what, whether it was the fact that you spoke about education that made me go to my notes on education, or it was the fact that you're from Ondo State, because that speech was actually delivered in Ondo Town Hall. Where is Ondo Town Hall?
Yes,
do you know it?
Yes, I know the place. That's where I school.
Oh, wow.
Yes, that's where Adeyemi College of Education is situated, and it's very, very close to the venue of where this extract was actually extracted.
Wow.
So I know the place.
so well, I mean, it's such a coincidence. And you know, and Mandela also has another quote. I can't quote it verbatim, but the summary of that quote was that education is what is a weapon we will need to fight poverty. So I'm glad that your life reminiscents that, you know, your life tells that story. And that's why I thought, I mean, we've taken, we've done episodes on education before. I will never stop talking about education at some point. I'm sure again, we'll continue to talk more about different aspects of education, but it's just important that to see that even when we're discussing agribusiness, education was that tool that enabled you to make that transition from it being a culture to it being a business. So today I want to chat with that businessman that is called Benedict. Now, tell us about your business. We know your business, we know you are in crayfish, but let's know what's your business name, or what's your company name, or how do you go? Are you CEO? Are you chairman, board of directors? Which one are you? So introduce yourself the business way.
Yes, Orioye Benedict Gbayisemore Orioye is my name. I'm the CEO of First Moreys Food Venture.
First Moreys?
Yes, Food Venture and First Moreys Services Limited.
So why that name? What's the inspiration behind the name?
Yes, I think the inspiration behind that name actually came on the 3rd of May 2018 during the visit of the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, to Ondo State at the MSNA clinic, when they were actually going around to see those that display their wares and products in Ondo State. And I was asked that, okay, do you believe that your business can be registered at this clinic? Because my mindset about clinic, when they said MSNA clinic, I was thinking that it's a place for sick people. And of course, when I got there, I discovered that so many businesses are sick. So incidentally, I was treated, the business was registered there, and they were asking me, which name am I going to use? Something that came through my mind was, my wife was telling me, because my wife was actually the one that encouraged me to be there. She was asking her, are you shy? Let's go now. She said, I'm your wife. Do you have any other person? I said, okay, let's go. When we got there, she now said, okay. I said, which name should we use? She said, we should just put something that relates to our name. Because my name is Gbayisemore, and I'm the first son of my parents. Now I decided to say, okay, let me put it First Moreys.
First Moreys.
First Gbayisemore.
Okay.
So eventually, when the name was searched, it was approved by CAC, and that was how we got to First Moreys. And I'm the CEO of the company, and my friends used to call me the CEO because I've changed the paradigm in business. And also, incidentally, this month my business clock 3 years. So
May.
Yes.
Wow.
May.
So May 3 years. Wow. Congratulations.
God bless you, sir.
Yeah.
So that's about the brand and the name and Orioye Gbayisemore.
Okay. So the other thing now is, so last week before we wrapped up, you had told us why you focus on crayfish, you know, and you also mentioned your value proposition, and that you are actually, your products is perhaps the best in the market, yes. Right?
Yes.
Primus inter pares, so non-comparable. Well, yes. We'll see. We'll let the market tell us that. But let me then ask, what has it been in the last 3 years? What's been your growth like? And I'm very specific about this question. You see, a few years ago, I used to do a lot of business plan mentorship with Faith Foundation. I used to be a judge reviewing business plans for the business plan competition and things like that. And the business plans that I score the highest are always the ones that are able to reference for me absolute practical growth measurements. In other words, I like to see that, I started with one customer. I made 10 naira sales,
Yes.
and I've grown the business now to 5 customers, 500 naira sales. I like to see those. So that's the way I want you to answer the question. So, because you say 3 years, but what does it mean for you in 3 years? How has it been?
Yes, for the last 3 years, it has been wonderful, eventful, thrilling, and challenging for us. But we actually started as a street hawker, and by the special grace of God, we started in a very small room.
So when you were street hawking, how many products were you hawking?
Yes.
How many sachets do you? So your crayfish, is it in sachets?
Yes.
I know you've seen it in the documentary.
When I actually started, I was hawking in sachets. Once I packaged the crayfish in sachet, I'll put it in a bag, and I started hawking. I think within
how many
100 packs,
okay.
100 packs to 200 packs on a weekly basis. When I actually started the business, and I was running the business with myself, my wife, and one of my younger brother then. And by the special grace of God, in the last 3 years, it has been so eventful, because so far so good now. We have a customer base of over 2,000. Aside from the federal government homegrown school feeding that will supply over 150,000 puppies, crayfish across the nook and crannies of Ondo State. In the last 3 years, we've been able to put our brand across the country without us being there. In the last 3 years, we've been able to use our social networking to aggregate over 5,000 fishermen into a single unit as our supply chain. In the last 3 years, we've been able to win an outstanding MSME clinic participant in the year 2020 by the federal government of Nigeria. In the last 3 years, we've been adjudged one of the best small-scale business in Ondo State and Nigeria as well. Also, when we started with just 3. For so far, so good. We have over 36 staff strength, both skilled and unskilled, both. We have the staff strength, and also we've been able to procure at least 5 outboard engines that we use for fishing. And also in the last 3 years, we've been able to start the installation of our world-class factory where we'll process crayfish for export. In the last 3 years...
Okay, let me pause you. Obviously you have a lot of accolades and congratulations, which is part of the reason why I featured you in the book and also brought you to the show. But you see, I want to be able to relate with our viewers. And let's understand that things are tough, right? It's a tough and challenging environment. At the same time, I also do know that in those challenges are really where opportunities come. You said to us last week that the reason why you went in, one part of the reasons why you went into crayfish business was because there was a lot of challenges in the crayfish business, and you felt my business model will be to solving the challenge in there. So I'm not surprised now that in the last 3 years, you've been able to do a whole lot because you went in with the mindset that I will win in business as a solution provider. And so I can almost say that you go shopping for problems. And it's where there are problems, you then come with a solution. So that's a point for our viewers to understand that as much as we can all say, COVID, things are tough, the Nigerian economy is challenging. We know all those things, but it's important that we also know that if we put on the right mindset, we can also win. And that's the purpose of this show. And that's what we've brought you. But I want to, so with all that you shared in terms of how far you guys have gone in the last 3 years now, what's your production capacity like? Because what's your production capacity like? Initially, I imagine when you started, were you the one going on the high sea yourself? To catch the fish and then process it and package it to sell. And now that you have 2,000 customers, I don't know, do you still go on IC? And if it can't be only you that is able to meet your customer demands. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. I think one of the first things, when we started, we actually started with about 100 packs of the crayfish in 100 gram. And that's just about 10 kg of the crayfish. But presently, we are doing 5 tons.
No, so were you the one going to?
Yes, when we started,
Yeah.
I was actually the one doing everything. I was the jack of all trade.
Okay.
But at the point when it started expanding, that was when I designed the model.
At what point?
At the point when I got a huge supply from the federal government homegrown school feeding to supply.
When was this?
This was 2018, late 2018.
Okay, so you started business May 2018, but
yes, around November, December 2018.
Okay.
I started having issue of products, unavailability of product. So at that point, 2019, I had to design a model that will aggregate these fishermen together into a cluster unit so that I can actually pick from everybody. So as this, that was what I talked in the last week episode. I talked about the value chain in it. So actually now, once they go to the sea, they capture, they come to the factory, to our landing site, they bat, take the statistics of what they have brought, and we offtake from them. Once we offtake from them, we give it to the fishmongers, they smoke for us. Once we smoke for us, we take it off to the factory for sorting, processing, onward distribution. And that has been the process of doing everything. So it has actually created even both physical and non-physical, it has created a whole lot of value chain employment opportunity, and it has also encouraged so many people to come into the business because of the model that we have actually put in place.
Now, before I move into my next question, so when you started, you said all of those 10, 100 sachets, it's basically five,
about 10 kg.
10 kg. So now, how much of tons do you offtake to be able to meet your
at least so far so good, we offtake about 5 tons. That's about 5,000 kg.
So is that how often? Is it every month?
Before the COVID, it's very, very often. But when the COVID came, it has to drop to about 1.5 to.
Now, so how did the COVID affect you? So
of course, the COVID actually affected so much because the COVID affected the small scale business owners so much. And the reason why the COVID really affected first Moreys Food Venture, that's my brand, was because at that point we are at the developing stage when we are actually putting so many things in place and the COVID hitting. So it's really affected us. It affected us adversely because one, at that point, some of our customers are in Lagos, some are in Ibadan, Lagos. The first thing is that there is restriction in movement. And it boils down to the fact when we are at the peak period in our fishing business. So we had a lot of wastage and we lost a lot of thousands and millions.
Now, so the other thing is, within this your 2,000 markets, who are your markets? Are they hotels? Are they restaurants? Are they individuals? Are they bars? So who are your markets?
Our customers are individuals. They are restaurants. They are, we also do outside the country. There are some we export outside the countries, while some will ask for 20 kg, 10 kg, 5 kg, and the likes. By the time we aggregate everything, we'll discover that in a month we are running to about 1.5 tons or 2 tons. It depends on the flow of things. But one of the major things that we have done that distinguished us from the business is that we approach customers in executive manner, corporate-wise, who will write to you that we are into seafood processing, packaging, and production. That, of course, we know that you always like to consume seafood. What are your brands? So we take survey of some of our big customers. So once we know what you produce and we know what you consume in your household on a monthly basis, all we just need to do, once you subscribe to our system, all we just need to do is to drop it at your doorstep every particular day of the month that we have both agreed. And so far, so good. We have had some executive clients that up to 500 executive clients. And among them, we have the KBC Oni of Ife,
Okay.
which we are actually having a very good synergy, and that was.
So you supply the palace?
We supply the palace as well. We also supply some malls, some shopping malls. We supply, but the reason why we've not been able to supply some bigger malls like ShopRite and the like was because we are still processing our documentation. And so, but in the next couple of months, we will definitely.
So I guess I can understand how COVID brought about the dip from 5 tons to maybe about 1.5 because now correct me if I'm wrong, is the volume of consumption, is it coming from individuals, as in families and homes, or hotels? Because clearly, of course, with the lockdown, hotels, restaurants, everywhere on lockdown, so I can imagine, of course, the sales would have dropped.
Of course, the large chunk of the product, the supply, it comes from hotels, and it also comes from the school feeding program.
Okay, so school feeding obviously there were no schools, so the whole school feeding was short, so that's obviously volume lost.
So
hotels were locked.
So restaurants and
so you were pretty much now just dealing more with individuals.
And we thank God to our loyal customers. We really appreciate them. In fact, they have done very, very well, and we are promising them we will also continue to do more.
Okay. Now, so I guess, how is it now? So now that, the economy is picking up gradually, you can't really say the lockdown is over. There are still restrictions here and there, some states, the federal and all that. So where are you now? Have you gone back up? What's your volume now?
Yes.
As at April, what's your volume now?
As at April last month, I think it's picking up because we actually did about 1.8 to 2 tons as of last month.
So I guess, again, what it means is you are still not at your peak.
We are still not at our
peak. And a part of it, school feeding, like you rightly said. So since that is not yet back up, okay.
Above all these people, they come across the country from different parts of the country. Virtually everybody here, they know us, they know this is what I'm doing. But the only difference between me and them is that I do the business differently. I add creativity into it. And that was I talk about the 4 P's of creativity. The people, you can see the people, the press, which happens to be the environment, and the process. And apart from the process, we also talk about the products. And the products are going different parts of the world. And as such, we are not really doing bad. And however, when it comes to the side hustle, I'm going to show you something that is very, very unique. Yes, there's something that is very unique about this product. Since immediately after COVID-19, you will agree with me that feed meal that they used to feed the fish, they are very expensive. This is alternative to it. This is what they use to produce the feed meal. The process is that, what is this like this? They have to crush it locally, in their local way. It needs to be crushed in their local way, so that once it is crushed, it is now easy for them to process for upward process into the factory. And as you see this now, this is going as far as Ijebu-Ode, Abuja, Kano, Kwara State, just to mention few of the countries, few of the states. So the truth of the matter is that Ilaje is the window to the world when it comes to fishery and fishery products. So the truth of the matter is that this is what we are, this is what we are doing, and this is who Benedict is. Virtually all this area, I am known. Because the reason is that I used to work with my mom when I was still going to school, when I was still doing so many things. So I used to hawk with her, and I am known everywhere that, okay, this is what he does. That's why it's very, very easy for me to actually freestyle and relate with everybody. So, and I also tap the creativity that I'm doing, the entrepreneurship concepts, everything is gotten from this process.
Welcome back to our show. We've just been discussing agribusiness with Gbayisemore Orioye, and literally just speaking to us about his business and the growth of his business. So now we want to speak about challenges. When you started, you also spoke about it's been thrilling, it's been exciting, but you mentioned it's also been challenging. And those challenges, I mentioned some of those challenges at the beginning of the show as well, when I spoke about finance, single interest finance especially. I spoke about cold chain. I spoke about the lack of infrastructure for processing, for storage, which many times is the reason why you have a lot of wastage. So can you tell us about your challenge? I think one of the ones that at least our viewers would want to really know about is, how have you grown your business? We know how you started because I wrote it in the book, and you mentioned you started from your savings, your stipends, but how have you grown your business in the last 3 years? Yeah.
Yes, of course, in the last 3 years, we've been able to grow our business. Of course, we started from our savings, from our stipend, and from that process, we started making, like I said, I was hawking my product, but eventually when I started having a sales voluminous sales, of course, I was accumulating my profit, and I'm plowing it back into the business to grow.
You didn't go and use it to marry a second wife. You told us last week that you are very amphibious. Okay. So again, it's important. It's important, you see, because a lot of the viewers, because I know the way I feel, they will probably be thinking that.
I didn't even think of that, because incidentally, my wife was actually the one in charge of finance. So if you are taking anything out, they will question you that, are you going to bar, or are you going for a night job? No. Yeah. I don't do such.
So that's good.
If there's anything you want to do, let's do it together.
Exactly.
So that's how we've been growing the business. And of course, we actually had some people that actually supported us, family and friends.
But at what point did family and friends put money?
Yes, when when we started having a voluminous
what you mean volume? What volume?
To the volume of about there was a time we had somebody that wants us to supply about 2-3 tons. That was 2019 to be precise. And at the point there's this Federal College of Agriculture in Akure. They want us to stock their agro shop. But at that point we don't have enough capital. We have to run to friends and family. And that was why somebody actually assisted in that capacity, which is my focal person, Mrs. Olubumi Ademoso. She actually come in, assisted us financially.
She made investments.
She made investments.
Yeah, so the reason why I'm asking this question is because a lot of people capital is tough to come by. And the truth of life is, when you have a business idea, you have to prove that business idea to be successful before you can get a third party capital. And that's what you are proving, because let's understand that it's a show, right? But it's also storytelling.
Yes.
And folks are listening, and they need to be able to connect your story. So you started with savings, but then your revenues were coming in. You were not eating your revenues. You were plowing back your revenue into the business, and the business was growing gradually. Then, of course, a point will come where demand for your product outweighs what your cost.
My savings.
Exactly.
So at that point, I have
you
to
reach out. But then it's easy for any investor at that time to give you money, because they can see, of course,
it was easy for any investors to come in, but I was so scared. And because I myself, my business was still at the developing stage, and my wife was my guidance, that please let us still be doing it or whatever. You know, women, they are so afraid that no, don't let this person to come and take our business.
Well, I don't blame her. So it's not so much about women being afraid. I think the point is about being shrewd, and it's about growing your business organically. You see, I'm drawing out this point because a lot of our young audience, people want to, folks don't want to crawl anymore before they walk.
Of course.
Folks don't want to walk before they fly. People just want to start a business today and then fly tomorrow.
No, it doesn't work like that. But for us, we started small and we're growing big. And when we were growing, the world, and we didn't know that the world was watching. People were watching. So at that point, people started calling, please, I heard that you have a very clean crayfish, that you can do this. Can you do this for us? Can you deliver this capacity? And we started doing it. But when it gets to that point that what we have as savings is not enough to deliver.
So at this point now, have you had to take any facility? Have you had to take any loan?
No. For now, we've not taken any facility. The only thing we're actually looking at is partnership. And the partnership we're looking at is not in terms of finances. It's in terms of shared facilities. Can you come around to install these facilities for us? And we start using the facility and we make a return.
So that brings us to the other challenge around enabling environment infrastructure. So what are some of those challenges that you have?
One of the major challenges we face is the issue of infrastructure, electricity. Because we come from an area where there is no electricity. We are even off-grid. Aside from being off-grid, our area, our senatorial district, is the only senatorial district that has been kept in the dark for the past 22 years. Ondo South Senatorial District. And incidentally, Ilaje local government is one of them. And aside from we coming from a place that is off-grid, of course, we have a partnership with the solar company now, Ashdam Solar, that is installing a 56,000 kilowatt renewable energy in our community now. So incidentally, once the facility is installed, we will have our cold room facility that will preserve.
So right now, how do you do it? How do you do it?
What we do this time around is that what we do this time is once we capture, we use ice block to preserve to the doorstep of our clients. That is what that's what we have to do. It has been challenging and strenuous. So that's why most times.
So, but where do you even get the ice block from when you don't have electricity?
We have to go as far as Ore. As far as about 3-4 local governments to get it. Wow. We have to go as far as Imoukhuede to get ice block for the purpose of preserving our fish. So that because the beauty of the...
So are you not able to, why not set up like a cold chain in Akure, for example, and move your produce? Or that's not commercially viable?
It's not commercially viable because Akure is a bit longer distance.
So how many kilometers is Akure to?
I think it's about, it should be around 4. I don't really know, but I know it's about 2 hours drive.
Oh, wow.
Or about 4 or 5 hours drive from Ilaje. Because we have to be on the water for like 2 hours or an hour before we get to Akure for another 2 hours again. So it's apparently going to about 4 hours.
Infrastructure is
a challenge. So, but coming from Ilaje to Imoukhuede in less than 1 hour, 30 minutes, 2 hours, you are there. You get the ice block, the volume of ice block you need to preserve. Another challenge we have is it's all about the nature. Sea turbulence. There are times that we won't have the opportunity to go to the sea because of turbulence. But we've been able to conquer that using technology. There's what we call the Ocean Condition app that was actually given to us by the School of Oceanography in the course of our scouting for solutions to some of these problems. So as it is now, we have an app that we can use to forecast the sea for a week and know if the condition of the sea is okay. Meanwhile, integrity is key. That was why we have actually gone that far, because there are some people, there are some clients, they will actually put you on your toes that we need so product in next week or whatever. But it's easier for us to look at the condition of the sea. We forecast the sea. If it's something that is not going to be favorable, we'll tell them that, please, we are sorry.
Do you have customers that you have to do day-to-day delivery for?
Yes, we have customers that we do. Yes, some customers like
every day you have to deliver.
20
certain
kg,
quantities.
30 kg, certain quantities, especially the eateries.
Okay.
So we do for them on a daily basis. Those ones, we also have a way of managing our relationship with them, because we are blessed with something in Ilaje. We have the ocean, the sea water, and we have the brackish water. Customers like that, what we do mainly is that when the sea is not favorable, we return to the brackish water to fish. So whatever fish we get, we supply them and we appeal.
So have you had cause to supply fish beyond the crayfish? Or you only stock with crayfish?
There are times we do that, but we have to collaborate. Yes, because that was what brought about my concept that as an entrepreneur, we don't really need competition as such. We only need collaboration. Because what we do is that we look at it that, okay, what me as a person I major on is on the crayfish. When I have some other people that are doing the fishes. When I have a client that needs a particular fish, I'll call. And also from the pool of my aggregate supply chain, which is the 5,000 fishermen, it's easy for me to know that, okay, this particular fisherman focuses on this particular species of fish. So it's easier for me to say.
So what you would then do is quality assurance, just so that whoever buys your products gets the same quality. Okay, we can, I mean, there's much we can take. I'm sure you will be back again, but let's have you face the camera and what's your advice to a fellow African youth like you?
Yes, to my fellow African youth, the point is that you need passion to start agribusiness. And it is the way you actually carry yourself, you start it, that is how you will grow it. The way you start it, that is how you will grow it. And for me, the issue of finances will come when you start developing your business, because there are a lot of people out there who are ready to commit their finances. But our generation, we have the issue of trust and integrity. And that was why I actually recommend the book, Never an Afterthought, to them as an integrity manual book for this generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Benedict. Thank you. I mean, being able to get a CEO out in 2 episodes is not easy. So that I want to really say a big thank you. And we thought to do this because most times it's the message gets clearer when it's heard from folks that they can connect with. When the younger ones hear from, a fellow young person, and because when you're talking agribusiness, it's not just Nigeria, it's really Africa now, right? So I think your stories become more believable. Yes, I wrote it in the book, but now that they've seen the man behind the name and the man behind the scene, I'm sure we can all believe. Well, that's the much we can take again today. I'm sure you've all picked one thing or the other, but like he rightly said, it's important to grow your business and to grow your business organically first, because at that point in time, you then have a proof of concept that would give comfort to investors, investors to invest in your business. There's also, from what is explained, there's also tons of opportunities in terms of enabling environment. It's just never going to be commercially sustainable to use ice block in lieu of a cold chain. But again, that's what you have to do when you want to succeed. You have to make it work and not complain. So there's a lot of life lessons that I'm sure in the last 2 episodes, watching and engaging with Benedict, we can connect with, and we can connect to see the reason for his success. And if we can tap into those the key mindset for winning, I'm sure we would have you on set soon to share your own winning story as well. Now, let me say, if you have other Benedicts like him in your community, in your home, in your family, in any part of the world, please send us an email, podcast@neveranafterthought.com. We want to hear their stories and we will bring them on set. I think that's very, very important because that's really how we win. Remember, one of the things I said beginning of the year, the connected network of resources. So please, if you have many other Benedicts, bigger Benedicts, smaller Benedicts who are doing well. Be sure to contact us. So that's the much we can take. Till we'll come your way again next week, same time, 6 p.m. on Thursday, same channel, Never an Afterthought. Be sure to stay safe so you can keep well, and above all, keep winning. God bless you.